Hello everyone, welcome back. It is April and I'm so excited to jump into our monthly forecast, both intuitively and astrologically. So now first up, I have an announcement to make, and this is kind of spoiler alert. The announcement is these monthly readings are going to be here to stay on my YouTube, at least for now, for the time being. I've been feeling very called to provide more readings on my YouTube channel. Like I started my YouTube channel. I mean, I did have videos up, but I used to do a lot of live readings, and I would go live like basically every week and give out readings. And I know some of you missed that, and I kind of transitioned that over to Patreon so that, you know, I could get kind of more compensated for my time and my energy there. And I do still do that like once a month over there. But, and side note, if you don't want to hear all these updates, feel free to skip ahead. I'll have everything like timestamped down below. But yeah, Spirit has been basically just pushing me to create more readings, and this I've been doing on Patreon. I want to say it kind of like evolved slowly over there, but it turned into this, and I've been doing it for at least a year or two over there. But I wanted to bring it here. I wanted to bring some readings back. So every month you're going to have a little bit more content from me because I'm going to be publishing these here as well. Now, for those of you who are still thinking about a Patreon membership, there is a portion of these readings that are still going to be only accessible to Patreon members. I do individual readings. I pull a card for everyone at that tier, and they get an additional message for their month coming up. So just know that you can still take part in that and still get a little bit more extra content out of these videos. And my Patreon members, you should have already seen an announcement, but you are getting extra perks added to your tier since this is kind of getting subtracted in a way. So again, you're going to get more community nights. We are going to be adding a monthly either community hangout night, spirit circle night, and on top of that you're going to get invited to like special events. So for example, when I have podcasts that I'm recording with guests, you know, you can come and listen to those live, ask questions, interact, stuff like that. It's kind of going to be like a place for a lot of that extra content that's special events. And if you're not a Patreon member, you can absolutely sign up for those tiers. I'll explain more of that kind of towards the middle of the reading. So let's start with our Bibliomancy. I don't do this every time. I just feel called to do it this time today as well. So let's see what message we have. All right, so this is from the pivot year, and I've been pulling this. I open it up every single morning before I start work and read like another page, but I randomly flipped to day 128. Once you introduce a new thread into the fabric of your reality, it is all different. It is all changed. Instead of thinking you have to reinvent yourself all at once, shift one tiny aspect of your existence and watch as the simple act of that victory becomes a wave of transformation that will pierce through your life as a whole. Wow. That definitely speaks to me this month. This Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde have really got me rethinking a lot of things, and once I saw it from a new perspective, sorry, my camera, if I don't keep like my hand or something large here, it like freaks out. But yeah, I've been really looking at introducing some new things into my business. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. Like, I'm like, these things are going to happen, and I'm so excited about them. And of course, I will share those with you as they come to fruition. So let's get into our intuitive reading. I'm going to be using the Ostara deck again because we're still in Aries season for a good chunk of this month, and we don't have any Sabbats this month. We'll have one May 1st, so next month, right at the top, which will be Beltane. But I want the overall energy for this month. Spirit, mushrooms, interesting. Mushrooms, your resilience is unwavering in the pursuit of anything that may come your way. So this month, there's definitely a theme of resilience, of understanding that there might be things coming your way where you have to burrow down into the ground, be resilient, wait for like the storm to pass. I usually almost always pull the book on our first card. Oops. Just to see. Resilience, immunity, protection. Mushrooms, one of the best ingredients for cultivating immunity, are resilient in nature and use the harshness of their environment to grow stronger and spread wider. Perhaps that's why they grow in damp, muddy places. They know they have the strength to make it where others have not. Challenges can arise unexpectedly, regardless of the cycle you're in, and such obstacles test your strength, shaking your sense of security and serenity, and leaving behind a feeling of uncertainty for what's to come. Receiving this card is not a sign that your troubles are over. Instead, it's a reminder that you have all the strength required to face your circumstances and come out of them stronger than ever before. I love that. You know, again, we're going to jump into the astrology in the later half of this, but I do feel like this is going to be a challenging month. Like this, you know, resilience wouldn't pop up if there weren't challenges or obstacles coming our way. But again, this is saying that the universe would not throw something at you that you couldn't handle. And so during these moments where you are feeling like, oh my gosh, you know, where you feel, and you know, that could be small too. Like, just know that, again, this is a group reading. Some of you could be experiencing it very extreme. Some of you could be experiencing it just like smaller. While your situation may be difficult, know that you're protected from anything that is beyond your capability. Your challenges will become the catalyst for your evolution, just as mushrooms have learned to thrive in darkness and humidity. So yeah, I feel like, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, there's going to be some challenges this month, but you're resilient, you are powerful, you are strong. And I feel called to say what I said last month of like, if there are any, or if there's like a ritual or a routine, like what do you do to take care of yourself? And do you have that like ready to go? Do you have it written down so that if something just gets upheaved in your life, do you know where to go? Do you know what to do with your time and your energy? Do you have kind of like an action plan? And this isn't like serious or scary. It's more just like, you know, I'll share from my perspective. Old version of me would just sit on Netflix and binge and just numb myself with like food and drinking, and that's how I would cope with it all. But now I know that I've got a list in my bedroom that's like, here's all the things I can do to take care of myself that are actually going to make me feel good, that actually restore my energy. And so like, do you have something like that? Can you write that down right now of like, how do I pull myself out? Or not even, you know, pulling yourself out. How do I protect myself? How do I burrow? How do I become resilient or find my strength in moments like this? So next I'm asking how this is going to show up. And again, all the cards that I use are linked down below. Sorry. I always forget to turn off my auto exposure. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. I kind of wonder if like April, like I know a lot was happening in March astrologically, but like side note, let me know how your March went, because I feel like everything, you know, hearing from the Patreon members as well, like all of you guys, some of you in the comments of the last video, you all said like you guys have had great Marches, like lots of big career shifts, because I find that like the intuitive part of this reading is really like unique to you, but then the astrology part of this reading tends to be more about like the globe, the earth, that's like what's happening around us, because this to me says though that the opposite, like we're actually being affected by some of the stuff that's happening, maybe globally or just within our own lives, that's a little bit more chaotic. Challenges, and how this is showing up is it's stoking our fear. Like the devil is here, Hades is here. This is, you know, it's also Pluto. Like it's here to bring transformation, change, and devil is really about fear, and it's about feeling tied down, feeling stuck, feeling trapped. But in actuality, fear is just in your mind. And when you stop and look around and really disconnect from the fears, disconnect from what you're being told, you'll actually realize that you're more okay than you think. because this is just mentally going to be a tough month. There's like a lot of conflict. There might be communication conflict. This is Five of Swords. It could be that you are just like, your mental health is really like up and down. Fighting with other people is what I'm hearing. I do feel like Five of Swords often also represents like breaking cycles, like backing out of something, like reconciling, maybe even compromising, starting, like breaking a new cycle so that you can get into something new. Like I'm hearing like divorce or like, you know, breaking up with partners possibly for this. So these are the challenges that are coming up. It's a lot of mental challenges. It's a lot of communication, talking, information. Like I'm hearing social media as well. Like you might be getting a lot of input from social media that's distressing. The devil, again, it's going to feed your fears and you can't let it. You know, you have to realize that the fear is an emotion that you can separate from, and you have to remind yourself that you're safe, that you're resilient, that you're strong. Okay. And you know, I rolled the astrology dice before I started, and then I accidentally, when I was like setting up my flowers here, which by the way are from my garden, all fresh from my garden, they rolled off, and so I was like, oh shoot, well I'll reset the intention. But I do want to say the one I remembered that I pulled ahead of time was Pluto. So there is transformation. Just know again with this mushroom card that these transformations are the conflicts, the struggles, the obstacles that are coming up this month. They're not just here to just like F with you. They're here to transform and bring in something new. But with this astrology dice that I repulled, because I still think that this is relevant. I think it's just talking about something else now, because I love this up here because we have Venus in Sagittarius in the second house. So, you know, that makes me wonder if this Venus retrograde is, and then it moving forward again. I'm hearing a couple of things with this. Like on a personal level, it's definitely us benefiting from that Venus retrograde. Like it's been retrograde, and I think we'll get into it in the Astro Forecast, but it's going direct again, I believe, halfway through the month. Or this is in Sagittarius, so we're seeing a lot of themes around beauty, around I want to focus more on what we value, because that's the second house. Venus also rules money as well, so we're seeing a lot of expansion of those things, of beauty, of money, of values, of maybe like how we're dressing, how we're taking care of ourselves. Venus can also be like the little luxuries in life. You know, I feel like ultimately it's expanding with this Sagittarius dice, and it's like telling us that we're seeing the bigger picture here. We're expanding, we're bringing in more of this. And then again, this is in the second house, which literally dictates money and all of the things that you value. So I feel like in a great sense, like in our personal lives, we're seeing maybe a lot of money, or again, it's like the things you value. Maybe you don't value money, but maybe you value like having a really beautiful office around you. Or, you know, maybe you're investing in a new wardrobe that really makes you feel good, makes you feel very like Venusian. But we're seeing that play out, and it's again, we're really focused on expanding it, bringing it in, and looking at the bigger picture of what we value. And, you know, with Venus in retrograde, that to me says, you know, up until then, we probably have been very much evaluating, God. We've been evaluating what is important to us. Like, is it that I really need that new set of shoes? Or, you know, is it actually something else that I want? And it can even be relationships. I forgot that as well, too. Like, you know, maybe you've been in a relationship and you've been really digging through it and being like, you know what? I don't know if this is working anymore. We need to fix this. And then what you're doing is you're coming back to the table and saying, this is what's important to me, and this is what I'm now kind of moving forward on. And you should have already been experiencing this a little bit with this Venus retrograde. But we're definitely seeing some good stuff come up when it comes to, again, relationships, money, beauty, all of that stuff, the things that we value, that's probably coming up a little bit more in our personal lives and it's being expanded. But sometimes you have to reevaluate and review things in order to get it to that place. But again, this to me just says obstacles, fear, you know, the back and forth of like dealing with your mental health. So I want to ask next what our biggest obstacle for this month is. Aries. Okay. Didn't we pull this last month? Like, this energy to me is like everything's moving too fast. Everything is moving too fast and it's almost like you can't keep up. But Aries is also, and I was going to explain this more, Aries is very much like just doing, just acting without thinking things through. And you know, that might be part of this Five of Swords, is that sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I need to slow down and think it through. And then other times you're just like, I want to just move. Like I want to act, I want to move. So just be cautious of this energy this month, April, because you're being influenced probably a little bit by that Aries energy. But it's not wrong. It's not all bad. It's just learning to, or taking the time to make sure you really think it through before jumping in. Or, you know, again, that's not what's called for all the time. Sometimes you need to just jump in without thinking. You know, maybe that's jumping into like being committed, more committed to your partner instead of feeling like you have to figure everything out. Or you feel really called to sign up for like a course or a mentorship and you just want to do it. You want to sign up and you don't want to like deal with all of the budget, but that could really get you like into like a bad place later on if you don't like actually do that. So it's, again, it's that balance with that Five of Swords. You're like wavering between two things a lot. And that's the obstacle this month, is things are moving too fast. Maybe you're moving too fast. And it's okay to slow down. It's okay to just act and choose. Just go with where your gut is calling you, truly. Just know, like as a side note, if it lights you up, do it. If it feels good, do it. But again, know the discernment of like, is this self-sabotage? Is this being naive and like ridiculous? Or is this actually helping me? This is also saying like time is of the essence. Like, you're being called to step into the flame with an ignited vision of your desires. So if you have desires or things you want to really achieve this month, like go for it, because part of that creativity is calling you to move forward quickly. You know, it's not, I feel like the overall message here is like, it's okay to move quickly. And maybe our obstacle is like dragging our feet a little bit too much this month. But knowing all of this, how do we thrive this month, Spirit? If we want it to be the best month ever, we need to remember the Lamb. Nothing is ever late and everything is as it should be. Trust is the solve. I'm hearing too to say like nothing is ever, like you're not moving too fast. Everything is as it should be. Trust is the solve. So literally what I just said, trust your intuition, trust what's going on, trust that you might not have the full picture and that's totally okay. That there might be a lot of craziness going on, but trust your own gut. Both of these cards are talking about timing as well, which makes me wonder if some of the fear that you're experiencing, some of the conflict that you're experiencing, or the mental stuff is all about timing. Like, you know, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? I am definitely getting like I'm getting both, like just act and then also hang on, wait, think it through a little bit. And that's why I'm hearing like it's going to be so important to know how to connect with our intuition this month, know how to calm down, get centered, so that like when we're going through the chaotic, like I feel like I need to make a decision now and I feel like, you know, things are stressful and I'm really afraid, that you're making a decision from a place of trust and like centeredness instead of a place of fear or conflict. So let's see what's going on with our psychic abilities. Influencer. Oh, okay. I just heard like a different meaning of this card. So this is actually the Psychic Development Oracle deck that's made by Tana. And this card is normally about like you can be an influencer like with your psychic ability or something, but you know, I'm actually feeling like this card, and maybe side note, maybe that is what's coming up for you if that it feels really calling to you, but I do feel like this is more about like you are being influenced, like your psychic ability is being influenced by the fear. It's being influenced by the anxiety, by the conflict. You really got to separate that out. Like intrusive thoughts are not psychic. And maybe that's a huge other obstacle that we're dealing with this month is like, oh my gosh, this thing is freaking me out. Oh my gosh, I need to make a decision. Just know what's influencing your thoughts and know that difference between your mind and your psychic ability. And it's interesting too because we have 2 here, and immediately I went to balance. That's like my word for the number 2. And I feel like we're supposed to balance both sides of ourselves. Like, yes, give your mind and the thoughts that are coming up credit, but don't put it over your psychic ability. And same goes for your psychic ability. Don't put that over your practical thoughts. I don't know why this is coming through, but like, this is so embarrassing. So my brother invited me to a basketball, the March Madness, right? The basketball bracket. As of this recording, it's not like over with. I know nothing about basketball, you guys, nothing. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll just do it for fun and it'll be like a psychic practice, right? And, you know, I did a pretty good job, in my opinion, because I got like a good chunk of the bracket correct. But because I didn't use any sort of logic, and I purposely did that. I didn't want to go online and be like, who's the best teams? Like I could have even probably used ChatGPT and been like, hey, analyze who's got the best records. I chose not to, and I chose to just do like an intuitive reading and pick my bracket that way. And that was pretty good, but I didn't realize that the bracket was set up to where you couldn't like modify it every week. It was like you had to guess out the whole thing in advance. So anyways, point being, I'm in my brother's group of 54 people. I'm number 54. And my point is that I think that if I would have used a combo of my psychic abilities and logic, like research, I bet you I would have done a lot better. And I think there's some things like that where it's just needed. You know, I could have gotten a lot better results maybe if I would have done a combo of both. Oops. Okay. Sorry. My battery died and I dropped my mic on all of the cards, so that's why they moved. Anyways, point being, like, I just think that your psychic ability, it doesn't have to, it's not one or all. It's truly using the combination of both. We did not come here to live psychically and not choose the human experience, like, and we vice versa. Like, I don't think we came here to only live the human experience and not tap into that intuition, those abilities. So there's definitely a call here to notice what's influencing your psychic abilities. Also notice what's influencing your like rational thoughts. And a lot of it is probably fear around these obstacles that are coming up, or being stressed about the time or the timeline of something. Try to let it go. Try to come back to center. Get receptive, talk to your guides so that when these things come up, you're trusting and you're understanding that this is all part of a bigger plan, a bigger purpose. Again, remember that the universe would not throw something at you that you could not handle. Your resilience is unwavering in the pursuit of anything that may come your way. Awesome. That is the monthly energy I have for you all. Just remember, I am here and available for private readings. You can book those anytime on my website, but let's get into the individual readings next. Hey everyone, just a reminder that if you join the Patreon, you will get one of these cards additional to the group reading so that you know a little bit more in detail what's coming up for you. You also get early access to this video. Patreon members will always get this right on the first day of the month. So if you'd rather have this sooner so you can plan, especially with that Astro Forecast, go ahead and join us. We also have a lot of other fun things that we're doing over there. We are doing psychic development practice nights. I do Q&A videos as well, answering your questions. You get early access to all my videos, and we also have member live hangout nights. I have reading nights, so there's a lot more content over there on Patreon, and I hope you join us. All right, people, we're going to jump into the Astro Forecast now. I'm really curious how March lined up with you, because when I talked to my Patreon members, it seemed like, you know, March was actually really awesome. Now, not guaranteeing that for April, but just let me know how it went for you. I was thinking about recapping it here, but I was like, you know, I think most people don't care and they would just want to know what's coming up. So if you do want to hear just like what happened for me, just so you can not only like learn and understand how transits can affect people, but if you're just legitimately curious, I think I'm going to be covering that in an upcoming podcast. And you know, I try to make a podcast that's kind of like what's been going on with me and my abilities and my life, probably once every like couple months. So I'll probably include March and April in there. But just know with astrology, you guys, sometimes we with astrology are giving the most extremes, because when you give the most extreme on this end and then the most extreme on this end, you can kind of then tell the spectrum of what could happen. So point being, like, if I say, oh, this full moon is happening here, and this could be like big emotional breakups in your life because it's in your 7th house or something, and it could be big breakups or divorce. It could be as extreme as that, or it could be as little as like you get into a little squabble with your partner. So there's a spectrum there. And so just know when listening to this every month that that's what's going on. Now, I'm curious if you guys like this. Let me know if you like this more. I ordered a wooden board, and the board's not in yet, but I got like these little like wooden chips so that I could just like move them like here. So it's visually more interesting. But if you like me writing, which I'm going to do this month, just let me know and maybe we can still do that. So, because a lot of you said you're learning, and I think that following along transits is the best way to learn outside of, you know, reading and trying to understand your birth chart. And again, if you're totally new to this, check out my intro video on just like literally the terminology, but I will try to walk you through it as much as possible. I'm going to assume that most people listening to this don't know a whole lot. So again, April is going to be one of the more chaotic months, similar to March, again on a global scale. And most of what I listen to and I research is about the US, so know that you might not see this if you are outside of the US. The US is going through it right now. We're going through it. And so I think you're gonna, hopefully, I've had a few of you like reach out to me and ask me questions about this, and I hope this answers some questions for this month. So just starting out for this month, I want to remind us of some big players where we're at. So as of the 1st, we have Mercury is retrograde in Pisces. So I'm going to just draw a little Mercury symbol right here. Again, remember, this is the direction that the planets move, so he's technically moving backwards right now. And that happened kind of at the end of March, and he's headed back this way. And then we also have Venus here with Mercury, and she is also still going retrograde, moving backwards. So essentially, we're still reevaluating, you know, going over, reviewing whatever house is in Pisces. And I decided this time too, I'm going to just make it easy and keep the house and the signs like normal, like a natural chart basically. So Aries is the 1st house. So just know that where Pisces is in your chart, it's not going to be in your 12th house unless you're an Aries rising. So you're going to have to look and see where Pisces is in your chart, and that's the house that you're going to be reviewing now. For the majority of you know, last month, these two were here and we were reviewing this house, and now they're reviewing this house. And right at the end of March, honestly, at the time of recording this, today is the 29th. Yeah, I'm recording this on the 29th. So tomorrow, Neptune hits Aries. So it's fresh. We haven't really had it sitting in here very much. For the last 13, 14 years, it's been in Pisces, and now it's moving into Aries. Again, I cover this all in the last one. I'm not going to reiterate it here. So if you're like, what does all this mean? Go back to March. I just am updating you on where we're at. And it's also Aries season as of like the middle to the end of last month. And we're going to be in Aries season up until about the 20th of this month. So Aries season is a lot quicker. I feel like after the 20th, you might have noticed the news is picking up, information is picking up, like everything is just moving fast, 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 maybe even in your own life. And that's going to be the rest of like April, the majority of April. Everything is quick, everything is moving. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of doing, going, maybe not quite thinking things through. Okay, so that's setting the scene. That's where we're at. All right, and the first thing I want you to pay attention to, I know I said I wasn't gonna cover the minutia of like aspects, but this one is super important, so we're gonna cover it. And so this is on April 4th. We have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Just know that where I'm drawing these is not like correct. I'm just trying to squeeze them all in. But essentially, both of these planets are here. And they're forming a conjunction, right? And so a conjunction is, an opposition. Let's start with that. So an opposition is when you got a planet over here and a planet is opposite over there. And so when two planets are opposite of each other, you kind of get like a war between the two energies, whereas when the planets are right next to each other, like within a couple degree orb, then it's called a conjunction, and a conjunction is a blending of the energies. The energies work well, so we're blending Saturn and Neptune themes. So those themes are Saturn breaks down walls, it breaks down barriers, it redraws those barriers and those lines, literally or figuratively, or emotionally even. Saturn represents our fears. It represents slowness, tiredness, age, it's discipline, it's hard work. What else is it? Strictness, constriction. Now, Neptune is kind of about deception. Illusions is another keyword for Neptune. Those illusions could be good or bad. But it's like manipulation and like an altered state of mind, something hidden, secrets, the unconscious, something under the surface, right? And so we're blending those two energies. So it can be deceptive boundaries, hidden fears, hidden barriers, hidden age. I don't know. I'm just like combining the words to kind of illustrate the point here. So I'm going to show a graphic. This is from the Honeycomb Co. And I think she made it available for everyone to access on her website. So I'm just kind of plugging it here. So you're going to see that there is a peak of this energy on April 4th. And like with transits, right? Like we're getting closer and closer to this angle, right? And then as the days go on and the planets move, like they get further and further away. So they kind of like create these graphs to show the intensity of it. So as you're getting closer to a transit, it amplifies. And then as it like falls away, it de-amplifies. And this is called like the shadow period. There's the shadow before, shadow after. So you have already experienced the Saturn-Neptune conjunction already. Now, why I want to cover this is because you will see in this graph that it's going to come back up with more intensity in July. And really, these two planets have been given us their energy since about March of 2023. And this isn't going to be done until March of 27. And when I say done, I mean they fall out of a 15 degree within one another range. So, and that's called a 15 degree orb. So once they get past that point, astrologers say, okay, some astrologers say, that's too far away for it to have that effect. So that graph kind of illustrates that. But again, we're getting this peak right here at the very start of April, and then it's gonna be really, really hot for the majority of July. And that's the big thing. If you listen to my 2025 podcast, that's gonna be a piece of what makes the summer just kind of intense. If you start to pay attention of what's going on around this time, that is going to clue you in for when it comes back again. And so let me just read off. So in that 9-hour podcast that the Astrology Pod team did, they went into every single cycle that happened. Well, not every single one, but like a ridiculous amount. And they were researching it for 2 weeks. It was really impressive. And they combined, they looked at every time this conjunction popped up. And this conjunction only happens about once every 36 years. And again, I'm going to go into more of the exact details in July. But here's some things that pop up every time there's a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. A lot of those terms are like paranoia, fear, changes in the media, stories around chemical weapons, uprisings in a lot of places, like both violent and non-violent uprisings. With this Saturn-Neptune, we're showing our true self. It's almost like the walls come down so we can really see what's actually behind the wall. But it can also be rebuilding those walls literally. Like the famous one that happened here is that in the 80s, the Berlin Wall fell on this conjunction. I should say too, this conjunction is a couple of years long. So we have already been feeling this again since March of 2023. So as I read these things, you're probably going to be like, oh yeah, this sounds super familiar. New religions being formed, religions falling apart, cities or empires collapsing. Rome collapsed under this conjunction. Trench warfare, like the back and forth pushing of like boundaries and borders. Also, it represents a lot of empires, like old empires that were weakened and just like collapsed. Like the Byzantine Empire falls during this. And sometimes this results in like other people, other territories coming in and like taking over that weakened empire. Sometimes it's also that the empire rebuilds itself even better than before. Secrets can be revealed. This can be not only reunification of certain things, certain themes, but also the separation of it. There's a lot of association with like religious groups. For example, what I found super interesting about this is this conjunction also paralleled the Salem witch trials and a lot of the witch hunts, ones that even went back into like Chinese dynasty. Also, it coincided with the birth of the book that was like how to find and identify witches, Malleus Maleficarum, published in 1486. Also, there was something that happened in the 80s with this. It's not necessarily witches, well, I mean, sorta, incorrectly placed, because witches don't believe in Satan, but there was the satanic panic of the late 1980s. You remember the Dungeons and Dragons thing, And everyone that was doing that was like worshiping Satan and like, play the records backwards and it's Satan talking to you. Like that was under a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Also in the 50s is at the other time that this Saturn-Neptune conjunction happened, McCarthyism. McCarthyism isn't directly related to the witch like hunts, but like it was a witch hunt in a way. They were going after anyone who was communist, and it was like they were throwing everyone under the bus, people who weren't even communist, and it was like this big extreme paranoia. That's what I'm trying to like explain here. Basically, people have a lot of like elaborate, crazy fears and scenarios. We can see that right now happening in the US. Like it's on both sides, Also on this conjunction, lots of deaths of rulers, either under mysterious circumstances or because of, actually plague, or just for whatever reason they would die, and then it would create like an opportunity for either people to come in and create something new, or it to just fall and completely collapse. immigration, borders also come up around this. Again, we're seeing this already. Lots of religious schisms, things being separated. Another interesting thing too is that a lot of women in leadership either rise to power and stay there for a really long time or fall from power, most notably in the 50s on this conjunction. Queen Elizabeth II is coronated. And what's even crazier is way back before that in 1559, Elizabeth I is coronated. There's so much more that goes into this. I would just love to talk about this all day, but again, if you're so serious, like check out Chris's video. There is a lot of association with chemical and bio warfare. The hydrogen bomb was tested on one of these. World War I started on one of these. Drugs is also another thing, like the prohibition of like drugs is another theme around this. Neptune definitely covers like drugs, altered state of mind. It's like the drunk. And vaccines and pandemics are both under this. That's a little worrisome for me because like under this conjunction, the bubonic plague happened and the Black Death plague, also the Spanish flu, all of these completely different centuries. But it's interesting to me that, you know, all of those themes pop up. Again, remember what I said at the beginning of most extreme version. So, you know, with that, you know, just on the pandemic, you know, piece, because I know we're all still recovering a little bit from the trauma of 2020. Just pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on. Again, this is not my words, but Chris said keep an eye on the bird flu, because that is something we already know and we already see. It could be something else, and it could be that this is minor. You know, maybe it's not nearly as big, but it does often pop up with these conjunctions. But yeah, like literally in the 50s, the polio vaccines were created during this conjunction. The key thing I want you to remember here, I'm going to go over it more in July, but you might see a little bit of this theme pop up around April 4th and what's going on. So that might clue us into what's going to be happening over the summer. I forgot to totally mention too with like the witch hunts, we are literally seeing that. If you follow me on Instagram, I often share some of these stories. There was a metaphysical store in Orlando who last month got like accosted by an evangelical Christian group. There was something a couple days ago with North Carolina, somebody, but it is happening. And so this is just one thing I want to tell you as other psychic practitioners and, you know, people that have stores, like just be careful. Be careful around this time, around summer, you know, and I don't say that to scare you. I say it to just like forewarn you. And, you know, when I say that, like, have all your ducks in a row, know your rights, know how to protect yourself. Like if something were to happen like that, do you have like a plan? Again, this might not happen to you. This is the most extreme of it, but I think we are going to see more stories pop up around it. And I don't want you to be freaked out, because here's the reason why. Whenever these conjunctions, Saturn Neptune conjunctions fade off, they get better. You know, the panic resides and everyone sees it for what it actually is, and they're like, oh, you know, and it falls away. Just know that it's unfortunately we're going to have the last exact peak of it in February of 2026. So it's going to be an ongoing thing, but I personally found a lot of peace in knowing that, okay, it's going to ramp up and then it's going to come back down. And we're just going to see a lot of peaks of that within the next year. But then we're not dealing with it for another 36 years. So know that it's part of what's going on. It's reflecting what's going on. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Help share this resource. I really want to do a podcast specifically on this topic. So if you know anybody who's been affected by this, please send them my way. I actually want to interview a couple of these people. I don't know if they'll let me, but that's the plan. I feel super called to speak to this a little bit more in depth and like resources around how we can kind of like protect each other as spiritual practitioners. But yeah, essentially this is kind of setting us up for July. And July points to some conflict, and that could be conflict that ends up for the better, conflict that ends up for the worse. Again, I'm not adept enough at astrology transits to really like know what to say, but I will say intuitively that I truly feel like we're getting a taste of this, which is going to come back in the summer, again, with a lot of other things going on. Really though, I really sat with this and tried to study it, and I'm still looking into it to make like a decision, but I see two possibilities here, y'all. For those of you in the US are curious about what's going on politically. And this says one of two things to me. We could become so weakened that somebody comes in and kind of takes advantage of us. Or it could be that the old ways fall apart and maybe this Trump era becomes the new norm, and this is kind of like the slow ending of an empire. However, I do see a very clear possibility through some of these other things that have happened where the people stand up, the people rise up, the people say no, and what happens is the leader falls, the old institution falls, and something new and better takes its place. Now again, with these transits, it points to both. There's no clear, it's both. Like both ways have happened. Again, some really adept astrologers might be able to really say to this, like what they think would happen. I'm just going to go with my gut. And, well, I don't know. My fears, my bias, fear for the worst. My gut tells me that this could be for the better if people fight back. And I've felt again, if you listen to my podcast, I can't remember which one it was, I'll put it in the text, but if you listen to my podcast on this, I went through all the emotions of grief about this last like November, December, and I just came to this kind of like resolve of like, if people stand up, this will alter the course of the future in a positive way. And so I'm going to do everything I can to share what I know, both intuitively and also practically. Like on my personal like pages, with family and friends, constantly sharing resources and political stuff so that people are prepared and they know. I share a little bit of that on my Instagram page if you want to check out my highlights, but I'm also trying to combine it here with just some intuitive knowledge of like where I see this going. And so I do think, and I could be wrong, again, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm learning astrology, but I have been practicing it for the last 4 or 5 years now, and I will say that I think that come this summer, from whatever is happening right now in April and March, there's going to be a pushback, and I hope it's that the people push back and the people stand up and win. But, and I'm going to get on my high horse. Normally I don't bring this stuff in here, but it's so important to me. I think it's so important, especially for those of us white folks out here. We need to educate, we need to learn, and we need to talk to people. We need to talk to our friends, we need to talk to our family, even though it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of different ways that you can help this cause and help fight back and push back. And like, I'm not even embarrassed to say that like I'm fully anti like what's going on in our country right now, because I think the majority of empaths, the majority of intuitive people would feel the same. It just feels wrong, it feels incorrect, it feels unethical, and people are hurting, and there's no excuse for what's going on here. And so I encourage you, if you haven't listened to it yet, check out my podcast, follow me on Instagram, and start learning not just the astrology. Like, astrology is here to confirm this. We have to take action. We have to bring our communities together. We need to pull together and fight this, or else we are talking about the other side of what could happen here. I don't know. I feel really scared to say all of this, so hopefully it's received well, but I am so passionate about this. And I've been actually really thinking about supporting a group, and maybe not all, but like a certain percentage of my readings go to that group. And so if you know of any groups that help with this, that I should feature, please let me know. It's very important to me. And the reason why I'm sharing this, you guys, like, I want to live here. I love the US. I love my friends here. I love my people here. I want us to be safe. I want to be happy. I don't want to have to move. I don't want to have to move. Let's come together. Let's fight this. I really do think another possibility of this is like women rising up, the patriarchy crumbling and something new taking its place. But I will not lie that the other option is just as like plausible. And again, I'm going to cover this in a March, April podcast when the dust settles and we can kind of see what we're working with. All right, sorry for so much. Let's go into the next thing. So next, we've got a little bit of a lightening of the load here. On April 7th, Mercury is no longer going retrograde. It's stationed direct. So we're just going to erase this now. He's not going retrograde anymore. He's slowing down, stopping, and he's about to move forward. So this is great because wherever Mercury is, and that's going to be wherever Pisces is in your chart, we are no longer dealing with the reviewing or the going backwards or the tech issues, like typical Mercury retrograde stuff. We're now moving forward and we're able to have a lightening in this area of our life. So this is like how we communicate, how we process information, how we talk about things. Mercury is tech. It's also like short distance travel. So any issues that you've been having around Mercury being in retrograde, it's kind of wrapping up right around this day. Okay. And then a couple days later, we have another lightning as well. So on April 12th, Venus also stations direct. So we're no longer going backwards anymore. It's now moving forwards. So again, like when these two happen, just stop and reflect on what those past transits were here for you to do. It might be a little difficult because they're both in the same house and they were both going retrograde, but like Venus covers beauty, it covers romance, relationships, money, like what we value. Mercury is about communication, how we express ourselves. But again, it's within that house that is for you. So like, for me, this will have been in my 7th house once it was in Pisces, and then also same thing because they're both in Pisces, 7th house. So that means the majority, well, not the majority, the first part of April, I'm dealing with reviewing my 7th house of relationships, like my partnerships, like with my husband, in a Venusian way and a Mercurial way. So we should be able to see the lessons that happen, and now we're moving forward, and we're in a more positive Venusian theme and a more positive Mercury theme. And like Venus loves being in Pisces as well, so it's going to be a lot gentler for sure. On that same day, we also have a full moon in Libra. So I'll just gonna do a moon. Oh, that's kind of the sun symbol, whatever. I'm thinking of like a full moon. It's a moon. Full moon in Libra. Now, full moons are all about releasing, letting go. It can be like an illumination on a certain part of your life. And I'm just going to go down the rising sign so you know where this is happening for you. So, if you are an Aries rising, this is going to be in your 7th house, Taurus rising, 6th house, Gemini, 5th house, Cancer, 4th house, Leo, 3rd house, Virgo, 2nd house, Libra, 1st house, Scorpio, 12th house, Sagittarius, 11th house, Capricorn, 10th house, Aquarius, 9th house, and Pisces, 8th house. So for me, it's going to be in my 2nd house of money, finances, material possessions, what I value. And with that full moon being there, maybe I'm seeing like a lot of emotions around that. Maybe I'm seeing a spotlight shined on my money and my finances so that I can see what needs to be improved. Or maybe I'm realizing I need to release certain things, like let go of certain ideas of what I think money needs to be. Or maybe I'm releasing old money habits. I actually feel like that's what it's going to be, just intuitively. So we're releasing, letting go, full moons. Another thing I will say is that this, if you happen to take notes on your life, July of 2024 and October of 2023, those themes will be popping up again around this full moon. Now, all I'm going to say about the 15th is that pay attention to Trump's health. Let's see if anything happens. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just regurgitating what other people are saying. I'm curious. There's just a lot of stuff going on in his personal chart that is going to be affected by these transits. Moving on, oh my God, April 16th, Mercury moves into Aries. So now Mercury, he's moving forward, and he's coming right here. He has now moved all the way over into Aries. The good thing about this is Mercury didn't really like being in Pisces. It's in its fall in Pisces. It does a lot better of a job in Aries. And all you need to really know about this is that there's a lot more direct communication going on, a lot quicker decisions, increased mental energy. There might be a lot of like conversations that feel competitive. Aries is very much like bullheaded, go-getter. Mercury is about communication. So there might be a lot more like conflict. And one way you can see like where that's impacting your life is just look at where Aries is in your chart. Where is Aries in my chart? Oh, Aries is in my 8th house. So, you know, for me, this might be that I'm taking a lot of quick, decisive action around my shared money, my shared resources, my investments, debt. Like maybe I'm really pushing forward and communicating very like action oriented, or it could be like more negative. Like there's positive and negatives to Mercury. It's not always negative. All right, and then April 17th, we've got Mars moving into Leo. Mars was in Cancer, and now it basically is in a new sign, and it's in Leo. In your personal life is a lot of like bold action, confidence, drive, let's see, leadership, taking charge. We're taking that Mars energy, which is very much like the warrior, the aggressor sometimes, and we're putting it in Leo, which is like, look at me, or putting myself on stage, wanting that recognition for those actions. So like leadership can be both positive and negative. This is Trump is like a Mars in Leo, so like we're curious what that's gonna look like for him. This can be ego-driven conflicts, drama, overreactions, stubbornness in your own life. Again, with these transits, if you're really curious like where that's going to show up for you, just take note. Where's Leo? Where's Leo in your chart? Leo is in my 12th house. And so that means like when it comes to spiritual matters, spirituality, you know, maybe I'm seeing more recognition, but it could be like more negativity or more conflict. Maybe I'm getting more trolls in my comments or something. It could be that I'm having arguments around spirituality, like who knows. This though, on a global scale, it's gonna have a lot of people worried about like their home, not feeling protected. I'm very curious how this is gonna turn out more globally. Spirit is just telling me that there's something more there. I don't know what though. So moving along to April 20th, things are gonna slow down a little bit because we've got the sun moving into Taurus. So again, the sun was in Aries. It was Aries season, and now we're in Taurus season. So those of you with Taurus suns, it's your birthday month. And this is good because with Taurus season, things slow down. It's an earth sign. It feels a lot more stable, a lot more grounded, a lot more patient, persistent. We're better able to like take in pleasure and enjoy things. Like things are just going to feel like you have a little bit of a foundation again. Things are a little bit more consistent again. Oh, and this might be the 19th for some of you, just depending on where that falls. I'm not going to write this one down. I know it's kind of a big deal, but I'm just going to mention that on April 26th, we have a Mars-Pluto conjunction. Well, I'm just going to write it down. This is really interesting too because Mars is in Leo, Pluto's in Aquarius. Like, it can be power struggles, it can be control, it can be transformation, it could be crisis and rebirth. Like, It can be destructive or manipulative, but it can be deeply transformational. That one I haven't put as much time into researching, so I apologize. I can't really give more information on that. However, the next day, we also have the new moon. So if we're going to go by my symbols, it would be a new moon, which is all dark, can't see it. New moon in Taurus. Oh, actually, I can say that Mars is opposite Pluto, so that does mean that there's going to be a warring between those energies. It's like Pluto fighting Mars, whereas up here, it was the blending of the energies, and so it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to see Mars themes pop up, we're going to see Pluto themes pop up, and they're both fighting each other. So this new moon in Taurus, new moon, new energy, new intention, bringing in new things, new chapter in your life personally. And where we want to look is to see where Taurus is in your chart to basically say where you're going to have like a new beginning. And it can be small, like it's not always like huge. I feel like eclipses are much bigger than, you know, new moons, full moons. But if you are an Aries rising, this is happening in your second house, Taurus 1st house, Gemini 12th house, Cancer 11th, Leo 10th, Virgo 9th, Libra 8th, Scorpio 7th, Sagittarius 6, Capricorn 5, Aquarius 4, and Pisces 3. So that's the houses. And use this handy dandy chart to figure out what those houses mean and where you might see like a new start. Great time to set intentions over what you want over the next month. New moons are great because then by the full moon 2 weeks later, you can start to see if your intention is like coming to fruition. And if it's not, it's like, okay, what do I need to let go of in that time between the full moon and the next new moon? And then by the new moon, you will have seen if that thing came to fruition, basically. That's why full moons are great at like showing you something that maybe you were totally missing. Like, okay, you want this thing over here? Well, look at this over here in your life that totally does not fit with that. You need to like look at that and, you know, reconcile with it if you want this intention to come to being. And lastly, on April 30th, Venus, who's also now moving forward, is now moving into Aries. So, now Venus is in Aries. So Venus in Aries is like taking Venusian themes of like love, beauty, values, money, like all of these things, like your relationship with yourself. And it's taking it in a much more direct way. Like you're passionate about it, you're direct, you're chasing it, you're self-assured about it. You might be a little bit impulsive about it. That's Aries. So, like it's kind of like a lot of courage in pursuing your desires. I'm also just like intuitively hearing it's like the women like rising up and like pushing forward. So think about those themes again in where the house that Aries rules is in your chart. So for me, again, that's going to be the 8th house. So Mercury and Venus are just like following each other. They both go backwards and then they both go forward. They're just like a little bit offset. We've been doing this dance for a while. Let me know in the comments down below what houses those are for you when it comes to Aries, because that's going to be a lot of April. You're dealing with it with Aries season. You're dealing with it with Neptune, with Mercury, with Venus, with the sun. Like it's a lot. So I'm very curious to see where you feel like you're having a lot of transformation in that Aries house. So truly by the end of April, things, I don't want to say are necessarily slowing down. Hopefully, maybe not as fast as they were, but hopefully we're starting to understand what March and April were for us. And where we're kind of hopefully headed a bit when it comes to July, and the rest of this summer. May and June, we're going to get a little bit of a lightening, and then we're going to come back to this, and some of the themes that are coming up. So, you know, it's super important to write stuff down. Like if you don't already have an astrology calendar, just use a normal calendar, write things that go on day to day. Basically, I do that every time I'm done with one of these. This is like my personal one, and so like I wrote down like that last eclipse. I got which eclipse was it? I got super sick. I got super sick on this eclipse. So now I know the next time we have some Virgo Pisces eclipses, I'm probably going to get sick, or there's going to be something health related, which makes absolute sense because Virgo's in my first house of home and body and health. Now, if you want something advanced, you're welcome to get the honeycomb journal. I printed this out myself, but you can also just get like, there's all sorts of really cool, I think there's a really cool one by Ritual Planner as well that they make. And essentially they make them custom to you. Because again, this is all fit to me. It has my Virgo on my first house. But I promise in the future, a lot of these months will be much shorter. That's why 2025 is just like a big astrological year. There's just a lot going on. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this helps you kind of plan ahead, find ease, find comfort in knowing what's coming up, and that sometimes you just have to kind of like ride that storm, right? Again, with that mushroom, it's like sometimes you have to burrow down and wait and be resilient as the storm passes. And hey, this might actually be changing your life in a super positive way. I've heard that from so many people. Not everybody. Some people are really going through it. But this is the year that changes everything. So, and if you don't want to worry about keeping track of all of this, I started an Instagram broadcast channel where I remind you on each of these days what's going on, what transit is happening, and how to figure out what house it's in for you. So join me over there if you find that helpful. And that way I can keep you updated as it comes and you don't have to worry about putting it in your calendar if you don't want to. I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I hope you all have a fantastic April. Feel free to come back and comment and let me know of anything that happens around these transits, either in your personal life or in the news. This is going to be a monthly thing. I'm going to release this every month to YouTube, and I really want to keep that dialogue going. Alrighty, you guys, thanks so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!